And this podcast is brought to you by the Repost Network. Repost Network. Monetize your SoundCloud content. Sign up today at repostnetwork.com. And by Jeff from Sleep Cheap. Sleep Cheap, the home of the $199 mattress.
This is the power of pro wrestling. A podcast by wrestling fans for wrestling fans. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show.
On this episode of the podcast, we're going to be talking about if TNA's business would increase if they signed Bryan Danielson. We're also going to list our top 5 moments of the week and our Royal Rumble predictions. All this and more next on the Power of Pro Wrestling podcast. And welcome to this very special Royal Rumble edition of the Power of Pro Wrestling podcast. This is Robert Red.
I'm Chris Heineken. It's on like Donkey Kong, and plus we got 2 awesome things to tell you about, plus along with the top 5 in our predictions. But guess what? We have a relevant question that, needs to be answered, and we're kicking it off here, and it concerns one of WWE's big-time players.
Okay, so the question I wanted kind of to discuss this week actually involves Daniel Bryan, Bryan Danielson, if you know like that. Right now, WWE has kind of been hesitant to clear him and stuff like that, and like the internet's been buzzing about him and rumors of him, WWE possibly releasing him. So I kind of wanted to get your take and your thoughts on this question of would TNA's business increase if they were to sign Daniel Bryan? This is with the premise that WWE releases Daniel Bryan and he is able to pursue other options outside of WWE, and so he does sign with TNA. Do you feel that TNA signing Daniel Bryan would increase their business?
Yes, and it would be stupid if TNA did not try to go after Daniel Bryan, a.k.a. Bryan Danielson. It would be stupid if they didn't go after him because, if Eric Bischoff said it best, one man's, raid is, another company's gain. And that's so true if TNA pursues him. I think TNA should. I think it would benefit them, not just merchandise-wise, not just television-wise. Talk about getting pop on pop. That wouldn't be pop on pop crime in this case. It will benefit TNA. No question about it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. I do feel that if Daniel Bryan does leave WWE, it was released from WWE and went to TNA, that he would make a dramatic impact on TNA's ratings if TNA uses him right, because he is still a very popular superstar. He still sells merchandise. I mean, if you look just during a Reigns match or any other match anywhere, when the crowd approves of something, they'll start going, yes, 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 yes. So, I mean, on a previous podcast, that just goes to show that Daniel Bryan, not WWE, but Daniel Bryan has not only transcended sports entertainment, but sports itself. So I feel that if TNA were to gain him and use him correctly, I do feel that it would help TNA's business. Now, I feel that if WWE were to release him, it would be very stupid because WWE has really created a good star. And if Daniel Bryan was to go to TNA, I do feel like TNA would start being a threat to WWE, and WWE likes to just squash threats that come to them. TNA right now is kind of not a threat to WWE, but I do feel that if they did get someone as popular as Daniel Bryan right now, that it would be a bad move for WWE, and it would be a great acquisition for TNA.
But also to that point, I also do want to add, I'm to EC3's point that he made towards the Associated Press late last year, early this year, I think TNA is not worried about WWE, even though they are watching the product. I'm not going to say that. They're watching the product. But I'm also saying that TNA knows how to use any or all talents that have been released to WWE and have come to TNA. Anderson, for example. Whether you like him or not, TNA has used him. He has they have literally done, you could call it whatever you want to call it, but TNA knows how to use talent, especially with the locker room that they have. It's a young locker room with very few veterans. So I think it will benefit TNA, and I know both of us agree that will benefit TNA in all perspectives. But I think he signs that TNA contract. I say TNA puts him to good use. I say he's in. I say they'll probably do, if it's a pay-per-view debut, which I think it probably should be, and they have him against an established guy, let it happen on pay-per-view. If it happens to be on Pop, let it happen with an established guy. You get him over that way, and I'll tell you something. What if, let's put a what if here. What if Daniel Bryan was already released? Would Daniel Bryan be on the Maximum Impact Tour and debut in England, where he's most noted for unifying championships?
Yeah, I mean, that would be a great move of TNA. If he was already gone from WWE and could debut for TNA, that would probably be a great way to do it, because obviously TNA, probably his largest crowd is there over in England, so that would be a good debut. But with that, we're going to take a quick commercial break.
Top 5!
Yeah, our top 5 is going to be right after our commercial break, so you'll hear a word from our sponsors, and we'll be back right after this.
Cling! Tired of the same uncomfortable mattress? Want to sleep better without breaking the bank? I got good news for you. Go to Sleep Cheap. They have a huge inventory of mattresses at incredible prices. With guaranteed financing with no credit score required, that makes it easy for you to qualify for a brand new mattress. Use the promo code PPWP today and get 30% off. Go see Jeff Toddy at 2801 South Caraway Road in Jonesboro, Arkansas. It's time to get your sleep back. It's time to sleep cheap.
Hey, this is John Jones, and you're listening to the Power of Pro Wrestling podcast.
And we're back with the Power of Pro Wrestling podcast. I'm still joined by Cornbread Chris Heineken.
And I'm still joined by Robert Red, and it's time for the top 5. Let's get it on.
Yes, as you know, our second segment of the podcast, we always do our top 5 moments of the week. So with our top 5 moments, we start with our number 5, and we go, like you say, in reverse order, and we count backwards, and we go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we go back and forth, 5, 5. I'm sure you guys get the idea. So you want to start with your top 5, Cornbread, or you want me to take this one?
I'm going to throw the curveball. You go for it.
Okay, my number 5 is going to be shocking. And because I'm such a WWE guy, if you listen, I love a lot of what WWE does, but this week they didn't give me a lot to work with. And you're going to be shocked. This is number 5 is actually a WWE thing, and it's my only thing from WWE on the list. And I'm sure you can guess what it is. It was the highlight reel from Monday Night Raw, which featured Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, and then they're at the end of the Wyatt family. It's very physical just to have have Jericho start it, then you have Paul Heyman come out and interrupt it, then you have Brock Lesnar come out, he's interrupted by Roman Reigns, you have those two kind of fight it out, you have the Wyatt family, just a melee, even the League of Nations beating up on Roman Reigns. It was a great moment. It was probably, it was the best part of Raw. So just from that, I put it at number 5 because it was good, but I felt that there were other moments this week from the other companies that kind of overshadowed it. So that's why I put it at my number 5. So you want to go with your number 5?
My number 5 comes from Ring of Honor Television. Adam Page, Mark Briscoe. Now, to me, this was a situation where, as great of a role as Adam Page has been on as far as wins go with the decade, and he's defeated, Adam Page has been on a roll. He's defeated Mark Briscoe before. Mark Briscoe has been in a slump. Even returning back to the tag team division, Mark Briscoe as a singles has been on a slump, and he needed a win. So, looking for Mark Briscoe, he went to the old school playbook. Too bad it wasn't a cutthroat driver, but he hit the Fisherman Buster leading to the Froggy Bow for the 1, 2, 3. And the most intriguing thing of all of this is Page's first match after being banned from appearing at the Final Battle pay-per-view, which is ROH's biggest payday right there. Now, number 4.
Okay, my number 4 is actually going to go to Impact Wrestling, and it's going to be interesting because this guy was my number 1 last week for last week's show, but he's going to be number 4 this week, and it was the Kurt Angle Bobby Lashley confrontation from TNA Impact. act. I've kind of criticized Lashley, I think, even before the podcast began, about not being a good talker, but having Angle and Lashley, who have such great chemistry and put on such great matches, just the moment like Lashley asking for another match from Kurt Angle after losing to him last year, it was just a great moment. You could kind of feel the emotion and the intensity behind it. It got me excited for the match when it actually is going to happen. It's got me wanting to watch that match, and I feel it could be a match of the year candidate. So just that moment alone, I feel, was a great moment that has happened this week, and you kind of reminded me that it happened before the podcast, and I was like, I got to put that on there because you could kind of tell like the emotion behind it.
Last year in England.
Yeah, I mean, Lashley
Classic.
is getting better as a talker. He's still not anywhere near the top guys like Paul Heyman, Ric Flair, anybody who's a good talker or a good mic man, a stick man. But it was a good moment. I feel the emotion, so I'll put it at my number 4. So what's your number 4, Mr. Reefin?
The return of Beer Money. In this case, it wasn't just Beer Money returning as a team. It was how well Eli Drake and Jesse Goddard, the man, was going to work together. Now, I actually had designated this as Opportunity Knocks. And even though it was, you can call it short match or whatnot, but bottom line is, Beer Money showed us some brand new moves and went back to the old school playbook, especially pulling out the DWI drinking while investing finishing move, which is excellent. But the opportunity knocked for Eli Drake and for Jesse Goddard. Now, Jesse Goddard has already proven that he can beat James Storm. He's done it before. He's done it on pay-per-view, even though it was in a tag team setting. But this time, with Eli Drake being an excellent talker, and both of those guys really, really meshing together, it really helped Beer Money to elevate themselves, even though they really didn't need to be elevated. It really helped them to further their stock. That way, they give us the dream match we want versus the Wolves. Number 3.
Okay, well, my number 3 is kind of what you were talking about earlier in the podcast, but it's going to be kind of the aftermath, and it was BJ Whitmer, Mr. Wrestling 3 confrontation that kind of happened after that Adam Page, Mark Briscoe match. I just love that. The crowd hates BJ Whitmer. He's you even said off the podcast he's kind of getting almost the Eva Marie reaction.
He has been getting the Eva Marie.
And so he's getting a lot of heat, which is great for a heel that people are actually hating him and not cheering for him that we normally get in wrestling, being the cool heel. So I like that. And then just the confrontation there with the whole Mr. Wrestling 3 thing and asking if he was Steve Corino, which he sounds like Steve Corino. So, I mean, if he sounds like Steve Corino, he is Steve Corino. It's almost kind of like the Whether Smoke or Fire. You kind of elaborated the whole ECW reference with the whole Rick Rude not being the same and being under the mask.
I smell trap.
Yeah, so, but that was my number 3. I felt it was a great moment, and I felt it kind of eclipsed Angle and Lashley. But he was just getting a lot of heat, so, I mean, there was more response from the crowd there than I guess Impact had, so that's kind of why I put it at my number 3.
My number 3, the Knockouts title match. Gail Kim, Awesome Kong. Most would even consider, because Awesome Kong's defection to the Dollhouse, that technically she could be easy pickings of walking out with the title. Nope. Gail Kim ended up winning. Bar none, I classify as rivalry renewed, and I have to give Gail Kim some props. Even though she's a veteran, she had a reckless attitude against the Dollhouse and Awesome Kong. So, and for the fact that that tied into the beautiful people, I'm loving the way that the Knockouts in general in TNA have pushed themselves forward. Number 2.
Okay, my number 2 is no shock. I kind of had to think if I wanted to put this at number 2 or number 1, but I put it at number 2 because I felt the number 1 moment was just a much better moment and better response from the crowd. But number 2 is the TNA World Heavyweight Title match, Matt Hardy versus EC3. So with that, I just felt that it was a good match. It was very physical, violent. I love the build-up to this match because it was Matt Hardy's last opportunity at the title. He was going to have to leave TNA Impact if he didn't win. So I loved it. I did have some problems with the end of the match and the way it happened. And so I'm not going to elaborate on that here. Maybe some other time in the future I will. But it was just a great match. Very physical between EC3 and Matt Hardy. They've had some good contests. So this one was no different. Once again, just very physical, violent, and just great match. But like I said, the reasons that number 2 kind of the way it ended. Some things were illogical in my opinion, so that's kind of why I put it at number 2, and I didn't feel it was as good as my number 1 moment, which you'll hear in a minute. So I'll let you pick your number 2.
Number 2, the main event of Ring of Honor television. Even though this should have been number 1, and even though it was my early 2016 Match of the Year candidate, I'm going Philly Street Fight, Kingdom, Red Dragon, Young Bucks. Yes, super kicks are on sale, and I do owe the Young Bucks 19 cents times 5. Super kick party, and another reason why ROH should literally put their broadcast table and everything back away from ringside. Perfect definition. Brutal stuff. Young Bucks got the win, especially a little going out party for AJ Styles and Mike Bennett. That's my number 2. And now, number 1
well,
for you.
What you put as number 2, I have to put as number 1. And it's sad to say this. I'm putting the Ring of Honor at number 1. The Philly Street Fight between the Young Bucks, Red Dragon, and the Kingdom. It was just, to me, it was a much better match. It had the physicality to it. They were in the 2300 Arena, which is sacred for ECW. Just a very physical match. The fans were into it. Just all the melee and action. It was just a car crash, so it was very exciting to watch. And it was kind of like you said, the going out party for Mike Bennett and AJ Styles. So it was a great match. Much better, I feel, than what happened on Impact between Matt Hardy and EC3, and that's why I had to put it over the EC3 Matt Hardy, although that match was still good. This match I felt was a lot better match, and just the melee, the violence, crowd reaction, just everything that went into it. I just felt it was a much better match, so that's why I had to put it at number 1.
My number 1 goes to Impact Wrestling. The main event. I had to put it in this spot because bottom line, A Star is Born. Whether you love EC3 or don't, bottom line, his career got made that night. Most people say, hey, he won the belt twice on an undefeated streak. That still does not mean that, hey, you reached that eclipse level yet. Bottom line, Matt Hardy made him a star. Matt Hardy made him a whole lot of money. And plus, the reason why this is my number 1 is historic on 2 purposes, on 2 folds. 1, Hardys, both Jeff and Matt, have now become the first brother duo in 40 years. The first brother duo in 40 years to not only win tag team championship inside the own company, but they broke the 40-year curse. They were the first brother duo since the Funk Brothers to become the world's heavyweight champion in the same company. But here's another historic fact. EC3 can become the first man ever to become an undefeated 3-time champion. EC3 was made that night. And if you truly follow a little bit on Twitter concerning, well, I'm not going to spoil it for you, and Matt Hardy, you would know what's coming next. And I'll give you one hint. 2012.
Okay, well.
That's my number 1. But we got to go to a break because even though ROH and Impact was really, really good, we got the Royal Rumble this Sunday. And it's on like Donkey Kong. We are going to give our little take on the Royal Rumble coming up.
Yeah, so we're going to take a quick commercial break, guys, and we'll be back right after this.
Tired of the same uncomfortable mattress? Want to sleep better without breaking the bank? I got good news for you. Go to Sleep Cheap. They have a huge inventory of mattresses at incredible prices. With guaranteed financing with no credit score required, that makes it easy for you to qualify for a brand new mattress. Use the promo code PPWP today and get 30% off. Go see Jeff Toddy at 2801 South Caraway Road in Jonesboro, Arkansas. It's time to get your sleep back. It's time to sleep cheap.
Hi, this is Joe Goodenhuth, and you're listening to the Power Pro Wrestling Broadcast.
And we're back with our final segment of the Power Pro Wrestling Podcast. I'm still joined by Mr. Cornbird, Chris Heineken. You still rocking and rolling?
Yes, I am, and I'm still joined by Robert Red. Are you still rocking and rolling?
Always, always.
Well, guess what? Royal Rumble is this Sunday night. Available, yes, I'm gonna go ahead and say it, on pay-per-view and the WWE Network. So best you order this Sunday. Best you get the WWE Network. Meanwhile, best you get Patreon, because guess what? We got some prediction concerning the Royal Rumble. It's this Sunday. Let's get to it.
Yeah, so we're going to start in reverse order here, and we're going to start with the tag team titles. There is a pre-show match that does allow you to qualify, but we're not going to kind of give our picks or discussion on there.
This is the pre-show. It's free.
Yeah. But the
Give me the pay portion.
Yeah, the tag titles are going to be on the line against the Usos, are going to take on the New Day, who are the defending champions. So who's your pick and why?
I really want to go Usos in this case, only if they know how to counter the numbers game. Otherwise, I mean, it would be nice to start off the new year with tag team champions, with new tag team champions. 51%, I will go Usos, even though I'm really not comfortable with Usos, especially with the numbers game and all, trying to escape with the titles. I'll go Usos for the upset.
I very well could see that possibly happening, but I mean, the New Day has been on a roll, so I'm going to just stick with the New Day, and I'm going to pick the New Day to retain the tag titles. I mean, I may be eating my words come Sunday, but I see the New Day. Now, the Usos, if they get another match, maybe at Fastlane, I could see them winning at Fastlane.
I think a better team is more suited to take those belts. All due respect.
Okay. Well, we're going to get to the Divas Championship, which is Charlotte against Becky Lynch. So who are you picking and why?
Becky Lynch could pull the upset, in my opinion. Charlotte's just been on a roll. But if I say 1 minute lapse by Charlotte will give Becky Lynch the disarmer and the win. I'll say upset, but I'm going with Charlotte in this case just because of the Ric Flair factor.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Charlotte as well. I mean, I'm not going to count out Becky Lynch because it's like you said, and it's like you said, it's hard to beat someone 3 times. So with that, Charlotte's beat Becky twice. So I mean, very well, Becky could beat her for a 3rd time. I don't see a title change maybe here. WWE may shock us and surprise us and let Becky Lynch get the title, and then maybe Charlotte wins it right back quickly. That could be another scenario. But I'm going to stick with Charlotte on this one. We're going to move to the U.S. title. It is Alberto Del Rio, who's the defending champion after winning it on SmackDown, I think a week ago. And he's going to defend it against Kalisto, who obviously has a championship rematch clause from beating him on the Raw beforehand. So, who's your pick and why?
Hopefully, this is the final one to settle it. In my opinion, this should settle it. Because, I mean, granted, back and forth title change. This should settle it, end it all. As great as Kalisto is, I think that mindset of being stuck inside tag team mode is going to come back and haunt him. Del Rio's too focused. He's too driven. He's got his mindset on one thing in his head. He really has that Dean Malenko mindset when it comes to, hey, this is my opponent. I'll focus on him. Straight shot, tunnel vision. Del Rio walks out the champion.
I want to pick Del Rio as well, just for the simple fact of Kalisto is still kind of like a tag team guy. I thought he would have made a good U.S. champion, and I thought they were going to actually give him a run. So when Del Rio beat him right back on SmackDown that week, I was kind of scratching my head. But you have to understand, Kalisto still has Sin Cara as a partner, so he's still kind of in the tag team.
If that's the case later this year.
Yeah, so I mean, right now he's still kind of in a tag team, although his partner's kind of out hurt. So that's why I don't see him winning the title, because I don't see him being a single star.
I don't see him beating him for a 3rd time. Sorry.
Yeah, so I mean, I got to pick Del Rio on this one to keep it. Okay, so we're going to move to the Intercontinental title match, which is Kevin Owens and Dean Ambrose. And what's special, this is last man standing. So who you pick and why?
As much as I would love to pick Dean Ambrose to retain his championship, the fact that, granted, some people will compare him on a hot streak right now, and he's had great title defenses, but my opinion, Owens, I've been too high on Owens for a reason. I was high on him in 2015 with his skyrocket deal with John Cena. I was hot on him when he's been competing in some main events on Raw and has been excellent. The Ambrose Asylum may close here. I say new champion, Owens.
Well, I'm afraid I've got some bad news, to quote the League of Nations.
Is he even relevant at this point?
He's not, but I've got some bad news. I've got some bad news for you. You're going to stay in the asylum. The belt's going to stay with Ambrose, and the reason why is Kevin Owens has something much bigger and better planned for WrestleMania. He's either going to fight Taker or Lesnar, and it's looking like it may be Taker because it looks like Lesnar's going to be a handful with the Wyatt family. So, with that, Dean Ambrose, I think, is just going to remain Intercontinental Champion. I don't think they're going to take the belt off Ambrose to give it to Owens just to have him bounce it back.
Well, let me put you on the spot with this question. How will he win? Will he win with dirty deeds?
Well, it's a last man standing, so I mean...
Will he knock him out with dirty deeds?
I'm not for sure that he's going to use dirty deeds to knock him out. I'm not for sure how this is going to be done, but with
because
that,
this is his playhouse. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's fine, but I mean, it's last man standing, so I think Ambrose is going to win. I'm not going to count out Owens, but just for the simple fact of it's rumored that he's going to face either Taker or Lesnar or something like that. I don't think they're just going to take the belt off Ambrose, give it to Owens, and let him go in as IC champ to face one of those two big guys.
But if the change does happen, what if the rematch happens at the next pay-per-view Fastlane? Then what if you use Fastlane to set up WrestleMania?
Well, I mean...
It could be a possibility. I'm just saying.
I don't see him flip-flopping the belt back and forth and just passing it back and forth. But
let's see.
Let's go to the Rumble match. And normally the way we would pick the Royal Rumble is we'd pick our winner who would win it to become number one contender. But because this is historic, the Rumble is actually for the title. Curveball. We're going to do something different. Roman Reigns is the defending champion. He has to defend his title in the Royal Rumble match. So you're going to either say Roman keeps the title and that's your pick to win the Royal Rumble, or you're going to say he loses the title and you're going to tell me who you predict to win. So does Roman win or does Roman lose? And if he loses, who wins the Rumble?
If the title would have been on the line and it would have been entrant every 2 minutes with Roman in the number one position, I would say Roman has a very, very good chance of retaining the title. But because the entrance is at what? Every 90 seconds or 66?
It's 60. I think it's every minute guys are coming out.
Then my pick is he loses the title. The new champion, I say if Owens does not retain or Owens does not get back the Intercontinental title, my dark horse pick, and I've had him before, my dark horse pick will be Kevin Owens.
Well, I'm afraid you've got some bad news again, Mr. Cornbread, because your prediction is right. Roman Reigns is not walking out champion, so he's not going to win the Rumble. Oh, obviously, he's going to be in the Final Four. He'll probably be in the Final Two.
But if he's not?
If he's not, then this is going to be really, really interesting.
That's what I got my eyes on.
But I don't think WWE, the way they've been building this match is one versus all. So I don't think they're going to let Reigns get thrown out quickly. I think they are going to let Reigns go pretty well the distance and be one of the last few people thrown out. And I think our new champion is the COO of the company, Triple H. My boy, Triple H. The game.
Well, I will say this. What if, and let's play what if, this is inside the Royal Rumble, and I brought this up. What if Roman Reigns is eliminated before the Final Four mark? Who do you have in your Final Four?
Well, if Reigns is out, I mean, obviously I would put Brock Lesnar in there. The Wyatt family, I would have one member of the Wyatt family at least, if not two. So maybe you have Strowman, and if you're going to do two and you don't have Reigns, maybe Strowman and you have Bray with Brock. And maybe the fourth guy, if you're not going to do Triple H in there, it's hard for me to put someone there. Maybe Sheamus. I don't know who would really fill that fourth spot, but that might be kind of my Final Four. Or maybe you have Harper, Rowan, Bray, and Brock. Maybe that's how you do it.
I would say depending on the numbers, if Roman's eliminated, and I might as well throw the question to myself since I posed the question, if Roman Reigns were to get eliminated before we even reached the Final Four, my Final Four will possibly, and notice I said possibly, my Final Four will possibly be any member of the Wyatt family, possibly Bray, Brock Lesnar, possibility of Chris Jericho, depending on where he is, which number he picks. And I say probably a surprise pick.
Yeah, and I mean, with all the rumors, maybe AJ Styles shows up or Samoa Joe. I mean, it's wild. It's out in the open.
Or WWE could throw us another curveball and decide to bring back a legend.
Yeah, but I don't think a legend would be in that spot. But that's kind of all the time we have left. Thank you for joining me once again for the special Royal Rumble edition, Mr. Cornbread Chris Heineken.
Thank you, but you know what? Before we leave the air, you know what? We got some great sponsors. I mean,
Yeah.
we really do. And here's one of them: Sleep Cheap. No credit score needed. You get guaranteed financing and easy layaway. DoYouSleepCheap.com is the website. Guess what? 2801 South Caraway Road, Suite C is the place you need to go. Jeff Toddy is the man you need to see. And guess what? Mention this code right here, PPWP, and get 30% off.
Yeah.
You can't beat that.
Yes, that's a great. So thank you to our sponsor for the podcast.
But don't you have another sponsor? Or is there something else that goes along with the Power Pro Wrestling that I know for a fact you're involved with? Go ahead.
Yes, we have our Patreon campaign, if that's what you're hinting at. We do.
Yes.
We have a Patreon, guys. As low as $1 an episode, you get some great perks. Check it out, patreon.com/PPWP. You can also follow us on Twitter at Robert Red Jr. You're, I believe, at Chris Heineken 1.
Yes, I am. And let me just really just reiterate this for everybody listening. We always produce great content, and I know week after week we always say, "Hey, please buy, please support us." Let me persuade you, okay? No other place will you get in-depth questions that literally are relevant to today's, not just sports world, but professional wrestling. Please, I urge you, please support the Patreon page. Please go out and support our sponsor. Even if you check them out, please go support them. This podcast is relevant. This podcast does mean something. This podcast right here, no other podcast will get into the in-depth questions and do in-depth journalism more than this podcast right here. Please, I urge you, take this from Cornbread and please do this as a Cornbread challenge. If you literally see a lot of these questions or hear a lot of these stuff, fine, go with it. But if you really want some in-depth questions and in-depth insight, and not just in the world of professional wrestling, but into all the companies, if you really want a good podcast that's worth your money, this is the podcast that you need to be a part of. PPWP, the Power of Pro Wrestling Podcast. Take this from me. And on that note, we got to get out of here. It's been an excellent podcast. Please watch the Royal Rumble this Sunday. But most importantly, even more important than the Royal Rumble, be right here on this podcast. This is the place to be.
Yes, and also I think you and me are going to go live on PPWP Daily, where we're going to be talking a lot of great topics.
It's on.
It's Mixler, mixlr.com / I believe PPWP.
Yes.
And you can check us out and listen to us live, and we'll give you more analysis. But
we'll keep you updated as the weeks progress.
Yeah, this has been Robert Red for the Power Pro Wrestling Podcast.
And this has been Chris Heineken. And please go out and support our sponsors. And please join us right back here next time.
And we'll see you guys later.
See ya!